Man, we are a lot of people. And one single lady among us. Give a round of applause for Roni, who had the first panel ever. Guys, thank you very much, Nam, for inviting me actually to moderate this panel. We are a lot of people on stage and we have limited time. So I'm gonna cut my jokes into half so we will have more time to hear more about their knowledge and insight regarding adaptation of books for film and TV. I'm going to start with my question to all of you guys. Can you share a complex book adaptation you worked on? What challenges did you face and how did your team overcome them to create a successful adaptation? Or not successful adaptation in this matter? Anyone want to start? Goran?
Should I start?
Anyone?
Okay, well,
I'm trying to do an icebreaker here, and what I'm doing right now is just building the ice.
Well, you just changed the order of the questions, so.
So,
right.
A complex book adaptation, successful one. Anyone wants to share some thoughts?
Well, I recently had a movie that were derived from a book, and the main thing, of course, it's you have to make choice, especially if you're doing a movie. If you're doing a TV series, then you have few more hours on your disposal. But if you're doing a movie with 2-hour running time, then you really have to make your choices in advance. Which elements of the book are you going to take? Because you really can't take them all. You have to have some pacing. This book that I was working on with the book writer, my co-screenwriter, is very complex in many levels. It's complex in a sense that it has many things that make it special, or because when you are doing the adaptation, you either choose to concentrate on a story, or your main goal is to recreate some world that the book is special for, or your main thing is to recreate, to concentrate on the characters that are so special. But you can't effectively put all of that in the. Something has to be chosen first. So in my case, we chose to concentrate on a crime story, and then build everything else around that, because the book is, as I said, it has many bizarre and funny side stories. It has a flashback story that is important. It has a unique atmosphere because it's on a deserted island, semi-deserted island. There's a war going on the mainland. So the many elements are in the book, and you simply cannot put them all in a movie. So what we did, we did a skeleton based on a crime story. In advance we chose it's going to be a genre movie, a crime movie, and then we tried to attach as many other elements from the book as they can lean on to the main crime story. And even then, when I edited the movie, and we had first public screenings, I got back to the editing room and trimmed some of those motifs and stuff that were lovely by itself, but you know, it was taking the audience away from the story, or it was slowing down the pace needed for the movie. So you really have to make your choices in advance when you're adapting. You have to stick to them. You have to have a clear vision. What do you want your movie or TV series is about?
We're gonna get back onto how to pick the right book to adapt later. I'm gonna jump back to Ryszard now. How do you tackle the task of adapting books with culturally specific elements or historical context for visual mediums? What methods ensure authenticity of these adaptations?
There's no one answer to it because every adaptation has a different challenge. And I've been in business for many, many years, and we initially started adapting foreign scripts into Polish series like 15 years ago when I was with Endemol, and we were very successful with one of the Dutch dramas, Penosa, which actually started the premium series in Poland. And then somehow the market changed towards originals, and we heavily depend in Poland on book markets because it's very expensive to develop originals. And now we actually dominated by the books, and we need to distinguish between the modern books where you have the author that sits on your back and pushes you not to change too much the story that he felt was coming from his heart or from his mind. And then we have historical books. I've worked on all of those, and there are ways to tackle the problem. First of all, you need to concentrate on the storyline. The characters, they need to be really preserved from the books and don't get lost in the multiple locations, characters, because you're not going to ever control the budgets. The budget restrictions tell you how you can actually improvise the storytelling and adapt it. In some of the adaptations, we had to rewrite some threads to make it feasible in Poland. Now, two books that I would like to address that we recently worked on. The one that was very successfully screened this summer in Poland is the 19th century book by a very famous Polish writer. She was 18 at the time. Mm-hmm. And the book is like 220 pages. And our task was to develop it into 7 hours of story. So obviously we had to add a lot to the characters, but the main plot was like a Disney fairy tale, a good brother, bad brother, and stuff like that. So we worked around that, but I guess we got the story beyond what the author wanted to do. The other story we were busy with also this one was for the public broadcaster, but 4 seasons ago, we did an adaptation of a family saga, which was like 3 books. We adapted into 3 series. And this is a very important element where there was called Our Century, a saga of a family that starts just before the First World War, and it follows the story of a family until the current times. Mm-hmm. With the adaptation and the cultural elements that have changed, we had to address, and I'm not going to tell you how, but let's make a list of problems. The budgets, first of all, then the proper introduction of historical heroes and historical characters into our story so that we only tell the facts. We don't try to change the history. We don't twist it around. Mm-hmm. We introducing the real people. We need to say what happened, not what might have happened. So that was an interesting thing. And obviously, the more we were getting into the current times, the more difficult it was. You know, we know exactly who won the First World War. We know exactly who lost the Second World War. We don't really know who is winning or losing today. Mm-hmm. So the political context is a little bit difficult there. Now, if we look into the adaptation of historical things and sagas like this one, one thing also, a practical thing that we need to address is the language. The short book that we have developed into 7 hours was, on the border between Lithuania and Poland, in the time when Poland didn't exist. The language was very specific. So in order for our story to be communicative to the present audience, we had to work with an artificial language, in fact. So budget, stories, languages, and many more things to come from my colleagues. I don't want to take time.
Thank you, Ryszard. We switch into Wiktor. Can you share insights into how you collaborate with authors, literary estates, or publishers when adapting books into TV series?
Sure, with pleasure. So maybe I could mention my 2 last TV series, because both of them were book adaptations. And Both books were written by probably two most successful best-selling authors in Poland. So the first one, it's a political thriller written by #1 author in Poland at the moment, Remigiusz Mróz, and basically almost everything was there. So I think we took like 80% of the material out of the book, which was really plot-driven. It was a political thriller, so it was kind of easier to adapt. And at the end of the day, the author wasn't involved in our works at all. He just read the scripts and he just congratulated us. And then on social media, he said that it was the best adaptation of his books, and now everything is adapted that he's ever written. And but the second example, I think it's more interesting because it's the first Polish Viaplay TV series. And what I took from the book, the original book, is literally one word. Because the title of the book is The Polish Murderesses, and the title of my series is Murderesses. So this is this one word that I took. Because the thing is that in Poland we have pretty strict law when it comes to life rights. Mm-hmm. And the book, the original book, is the 15 cases of real women who killed people. And those are interviews and court files. So we didn't have life rights to those characters. So lawyers told me that I cannot use anything from the book.
You guys are good at writing. Come on.
So what we did is the book starts, like the introduction to the book, starts with a really great question that inspired us, our team of writers. So the author asked the question, what makes women kill? Because we know a lot about men killing people, but why women kill? So
I can answer this.
Right
with one word: everything.
So we
have our reasons.
So there are different reasons, obviously, but we were looking for a pattern. So what we took from this book, it's kind of we were looking for psychological patterns, but everything, starting from the characters, all storylines, the whole world was kind of like made up by our team of writers. So, it depends. But also, the author of the book said we did a great job. The only problem is with the readers who watch the series and they don't really recognize the book that they do.
Thank you. Roni, hi.
Hello.
How are you feeling?
Okay.
Good. When adapting books into TV series across different cultures, what challenges do you face and how do you ensure the shows appeal to diverse audiences?
Yeah, I feel as Keshet International has a lot of experience in adapting various types of materials, including, formats and shows, but also IPs and books and stories globally. I think at the end of the day, you look for stories that, first of all, you look for stories and things that can succeed locally, because if they don't succeed locally, they're not going to succeed internationally. But then once you have that sort of successful IP or successful series or successful book, you sort of take the heart from that, and that translates when you're focusing on the core, you're focusing on the characters, you're focusing on the thing that's easier for audiences to connect with. A lot of the times I think storylines and plots and things that are very grandiose are not the things that necessarily stick around, or not necessarily the things that then manage to be translated into different cultures and different territories. So I think that's something that is key when we take one IP and develop it, one book, and develop it to a different territory. We've had a successful show called When Heroes Fly, which is an Israeli book. And the show is based on the last episode of that book, the last chapter. And it's very much an Israeli story. It's about, men who years after the army reunite to go save someone that they used to know and love in Colombia, in South America. And we've managed a wonderful team at Keshet Studios in the US managed to translate that book, translate that IP into a show called Echo 3 that's on Apple. And they created a show for the American audiences that's very, very successful globally as well. So I think it's identifying that thing that audiences and people in general sort of are able to connect to.
Switching to Filip, you're part of Scenic Rights, a company which is, I mean, one of the main businesses is actually related to adapting book IP. Can you tell us a little bit more about that, about the model?
Yeah. I actually stepped in this panel last minute because I'm supposed to be on the other one, but my friend Sidney Borjas, who is the founder of the company, of this agency, who we share the franchise for CEE countries, me like a Dramedy with him, and the Scenic Rights is run originally started in Madrid, but it has offices in LA, in Mexico, and now in CEE. And we are basically, I think, the only agency who is helping really to identify and to help the books to find the producers, broadcasters, and streamers. We have monthly regular calls with commissioning editors or with the creative people from mainstreamers, from important production companies. And this is mostly happening now in the countries where Scenic Rights is already developed. CEE is new for us. We are 1 year here, and we are still building the catalog of the project. And we are basically intending to search for great IPs. Mostly, 95% of it is books, but it can be also video games, it can be podcasts, it can be anything what is significant and has got some, let's say, like brand value. That's what in reality is what the market is looking for. Indeed, me as a producer, I develop a lot of projects myself from the scratch, but you have to feed the beast, and there is not enough ideas on the market. So the books or these IPs are very helpful in order to create audiovisual content. And we have, as a Scenic Rights, we have normally like 200 projects a year in different phases in development, and out of it maybe between 6 to 10 being produced with big players like Amazon, Netflix, but also with the local broadcasters, etc. And I hope we try to overcome all these obstacles which are in the adaptation and help to connect the author with the producers and being like the mediator. And actually what we do is already like identifying the potential of the book or of the story and really present it to the potential buyer. I mean, buyer in terms of producer or streamer or broadcaster. It's a hard work because many times, the authors, they don't even have synopsis of their book or something like that. And indeed, these people, these executives, they are not ready to read the whole books. That's it. So preparing it, building around it basically a marketing package, and then selling it and talking to the people on a very frequent way, it helps a lot. And that's the business of Scenic Rights.
So if there are young writers here who wants to submit their projects, who are ready to submit your projects, please find Mr. Bobinski and do the right thing. Danijel, we are finally getting to you. Let's talk a little bit more about financing. It's an adaptation of a complex historical drama, more preferable to finance than, for example, a dark dystopian film. Is there a connection between theme and financing?
Oh, hard. Can I change also for the first question to share? I have one wise sentence that I would like to share about the book adaptations. When I was doing when I wanted to start the first adaptation for the feature film, it was more than 10 years ago. I was reading a lot about how to adapt the book for screen and finding different ways, what is the best, and I found a very interesting sentence which I remembered. and it is something like this. The only way to make a good adaptation is to betray the original. And for this project, we didn't do that. We didn't betray it, and it never happened. I don't know if this is the reason, but it could be. And right now, we are working on one adaptation of the famous book and very important book, which we are doing exactly that. We are trying to betray it in the way that we change the main character, that we change lots of things that are very recognizable to this, and looking forward to see what it happen. But I think it is very hard to make a good adaptation, because it is always people. The most common comment you will heard about the adaptation is that the book is better than the film or the TV series, and this is basically because when you are reading the book, you have your own vision of the characters. You imagine them tall and blonde or whatever. And you have your own unique idea of what is the picture of this. And in the adaptation, this unique idea is replaced with the idea of the one or collective of authors who are working on this. And this is definitely different than what all of the readers are imagining what will be. I think in this betrayal, it is very important to keep the spirit, to keep the core values of the book, but I think it is very needed also to the readers and to the fans of the book, to bring them something new which they didn't expect, and which they will recognize as a new value, which is beyond the value they gotten from the book. And for the financing,
I was gonna okay, you're avoiding the financing part. So how about the financing? Yeah. I mean, just a personal opinion. I mean, what do you see?
Yeah, I wouldn't say there is a rule which would be different than rules for the originals. Of course, the complex stories.
I'm sorry for interrupting you. I'm talking maybe somebody has in consideration what is the bigger risk? Like from financial point of view. To adapt what kind of book?
I think it is in the financial way. Of course, it is a complex historical book is probably more expensive, so it is higher budget, higher level, so the stakes are higher. But I would say that there is a more connected audience to this work, even if they are not readers of the book, not the fans. Because it is probably something which is connected somehow with the history, with the collective memory, and maybe it's easier to find audience for works like that than for something which is maybe more modern. Of course, this is, we would say, now we are talking about the average, not exceptional works, I don't know, to adapt the books that are really unique. These rules are not working at all.
Okay, we have a book, successful piece of literature. Goran, for example, how do you choose essential elements from this book for successful adaptations when actually facing limitation like fewer episodes or different storytelling methods?
Well, as I was saying, I think you need to find in yourself what did draw you to this book. What's important from this original work? What's the most important thing for you? Because you're not going to be able to translate all from it. And then you have to make a choice what your film or TV series is going to be. Is it going to be a genre movie? Is it going to be an art movie? What is, or you're choosing it the other way. The most important thing for me is maybe the feel in that book, and then I'm going to maybe make an art movie because that's the best way to convey that feel. But if the most important thing from that original work is story, then probably the best thing to do is start doing the adaptation for a genre. Movie. So I think that's the way you choose your elements from original source.
And speaking excuse me, speaking about choosing your next project, Ryszard, for example, if I'm a director and I'm choosing my next project, I'd like to know if adapting an old and lesser known piece of literature with great potential is easier than from starting from scratch and creating an original script.
Well, let's put it from the perspective of sales, because we are so flooded with projects. Only few of them work, and the ones that work are the ones that get commissioned. So you need to look at it from the perspective of the commissioner, because they're looking for something specific. Like the experience we had with public TV was that we actually helped them develop the slot on Sunday at 8, like the most important slot for television on prime time, by allocating the adaptations of period drama. And as such, within this genre, I would be probably pitching more shows that would fit in that particular slot. With commercial broadcasters, it's slightly more different. They're looking for romance, romantic comedies. So again, first you're trying to align the goals with the broadcaster. And now looking at it, I was also working for the broadcaster, and I know that eliminating of the risk is trying to protect my job and position. So it is far easier or less risky to rely on a story that has been told already, and then a completely new concept. So when we talk about streamers, that's a third type of client that we have on the market. They would also look for a very commercial stuff. However, they started experimenting with the period drama, and we had in one of the panels here a reference to a show that's called True Love, that has taken the world market by the storm. So these things are changing, but I would start talking to the director, knowing whom I am going to deliver the product to. Otherwise, the product will be just sitting on a pile of other shows that has never worked.
Wiktor, what are some strategies used by filmmakers to capture the essence and themes of a book while making necessary changes to adapt it in film or TV?
So first of all, it depends whether you are hired as a writer by a production company or by a broadcaster, or it's you who pick this particular book. And if it's me, I always, like my colleague said, I start with what interests me in this project. Usually it's a theme or a character or the world, and I start with those unique selling points of this project for me. But if I'm hired, and usually those projects that are made are projects where I was hired by someone else, I always start with a honest discussion with the people who are hiring me, in the very beginning to set the requirements, clearly, because sometimes you are hired to deliver a fast-paced thriller series, but the book is a very intellectual, psychological drama, and so you either completely change everything, or you stay close to the original material. So I would definitely start with this, honest conversation with your partners.
Roni, when working on co-productions, how do you manage creative differences among international collaborators while staying faithful to the essence of the original book in the TV series adaptation?
I think we've been very lucky with our partners whenever we do co-productions. I think we also can identify now before entering sort of any agreement or any creative process that people are more or less on the same page, just in terms of how we approach what the intentions are. I think having those conversations maybe early on before you even start the really creative process really helps with managing expectations and managing what we feel the series should and could look like. And then obviously, whenever you're working on something creative, people are going to have different opinions. And I think that's something that elevates, the story. You have, I think the way the industry sort of grows is more voices and more opinions and more ways of having conversations that don't necessarily always fit with what you're thinking. And at the end of the day, the idea is that we're all there to make the project as best as possible and do what's best for the project. So thankfully, we've been very lucky to collaborate with people who feel the same way. And there are moments where you sort of let the other side lead. There are moments where if you feel very passionate about something, you will push for it. But I think at the end of the day, if everyone around the table is really coming from a place of making this the best series as possible, then you find a way creatively to get past those conflicts or conversations that,
Thank you. Filip, look at me. I have one question.
I'm listening. I'm concentrating.
From a fan point of view, how do you guys manage to keep fans happy while making creative changes during the adaptation of a certain book?
I think that's a little bit around what we've said already, or the colleagues. I mean, it's always about trying to maintain the core of the book. In terms of scenic rights, we always try to balance the reasonable participation of the author or collaboration of the author of the book with the creative team of which is doing the adaptation. It's not easy indeed, and it's a lot of diplomatic work as well, but we try to do it as good as we can.
Can I just add that I think sometimes we said that, but you have to, at one point, you have to let go of the book and continue developing it as a series the way, that we know how to develop TV. Because if we constantly trying to stay true to the book or constantly have like the author's voice in our head, we're not doing justice to what we know works on screen. So there is that balance that you have to also, by collaborating and partnering with an author who wrote a book, you also need to be aware of who you're dealing with. So there might be authors that will not relinquish any control over the creative process or over what, eventually the series is going to look like. And there are authors who, are more susceptible and understand that not everything can be the same as they had imagined for the book in order for them to have a great series. And I think that's in everyone's best interest, because if a series that's based on a book does really well, then that author is going to keep getting, known and get more business out of it. But for that to happen, a lot of the times you got to step back from the book once you have that core sort of idea and core concept and just go with it, just like you would develop any
or you
series.
just take one word from the book
or just
and
one
develop
word.
it.
Yes, exactly.
Like Wiktor.
I think contractually you cannot
Daniel,
I was just about to say that contractually you cannot really allow, or limit the one who is buying the rights in the adaptation. That's not possible. But it's about building a trust about the parties, and trying to, just make the people together, or to work together, talk together, and get the best out of it. It's as I say, a diplomacy.
You do not want to piss authors.
No.
Danijel, my last question to you, because I want to be fair, I want to make sure that every single one of you answer at least 2 questions, so we will have a little bit of time for the audience if somebody wants to ask something. What factors do you consider when choosing books for adaptation, especially concerning local audience, preferences, and cultural aspects?
It has to be something which is important to you, I think. This is the main reason why you want to do it. It is not only the status of the sales. Is it a bestseller? Of course, it is easier to do it in that way, and it is very often connected. But I think it has to be something which is some values in this work, some themes which are shared in one community or more communities. No matter is it one nation, is it more nations, whatever. Something that really moves us and motivates us that we want to do it. I think this is the first thing. If I want to read it, if I want to see it, then maybe it is something which is important to all of us. And then, of course, in some times there are some factors. Something is more preferable. There are times when there is more interest in the public for something which is maybe more dystopian, something more historic. This depends on what are the events around us. In the times of war, it is different than at the times of peace. Yeah.
Thank you. Since I run out of questions, I'd like to ask the audience if somebody wants to ask some of our panelists something related to the topic. We will be more than happy to answer. I think we have been more than clear how to do a successful adaptation of a book. Thank you very much, Nem. Thank you very much for having us for this panel. It's not a bad thing to finish a bit earlier before lunch, what I think. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.